Okay, let's go.
What is socialism? If you answered sticking it to your dad, you're absolutely right. That's what really matters. Never lose sight of that. But believe it or not, there is more to it.
The fuck?
Socialism is a fundamentally different project for society.
I love
a
my dad.
society organized around a different economic model. With that much at stake, it's natural to wonder how such a society would work. And because it's the topic of this video,
It's not properly cropped? Wait. It is? No, it's fine. Okay, you'd be just trolling. Gotcha.
how this society would work. Currently, we don't live under that economic model, of course. We live under capitalism, a system in which a small minority of people privately own the vast majority of all productive resources. Companies, factories, stuff like that. They own.
Which sucks, by the way, but this person will most likely explain
the
that
tools,
shortly.
so to speak, to make stuff. This ownership over the so-called means of production, the means required to produce, allows capitalists to put other people to work. That way they make a nice little profit. Or a big, humongous, I feel like buying Twitter today kind of profit, regardless of whether they work or not. Socialists have a different idea of how things should be run. Instead of concentrated and individual ownership over the means of production, ownership should be collective. That way, whatever we produce by working, we could redistribute amongst ourselves, or use to do cool stuff like, I don't know, what if nobody lived on a concrete slab right next to cars and sewer water? Crazy.
Yeah, imagine, guys, how cool it could be for everyone. Homeless people not having to be homeless because they actually get supported? Wowie, not having to choose between 72 different phones? Not having to rely on, products that will be forced to break at some point because companies need you to rebuy everything within of 2 years, else they don't make profit. Wouldn't that be great? Huh? No, but it can't wait, great.
Ideas like that. But capitalists like to keep their profits more than they like doing cool stuff. So that's pretty much where the story ends. And where does it end with you socialists? First you want to treat the homeless like they're people, now you're telling me you want everyone to have guaranteed shelter, food, medical care, and education? I don't think so. If people aren't fearing for their life at least once a day, why would anyone ever want to work? How would we get anything done and guarantee these things you're promising to everyone?
No, I like feeling like poo to make rich people happy. Darling, are you a communist? No, damn, that's a pretty communist comment. I appreciate it, Tom. I agree.
And you know what? That's actually a really good question. Let's spend about 15 minutes trying to answer it. The first piece of the puzzle we need to look at is work under our current system, capitalism. That's because socialism is not a perfect utopian society where everyone is happy all the time.
Yes, important point is if we aim for communism, we always gotta start with socialism. Maxed out socialism will eventually lead to communism. That's the ultimate goal, but you gotta have a long socialist phase to reach that point.
Socialism will have its limitations. And in order to properly assess those limitations, we have to compare them to the kinds of limitations we're currently facing in our resplendent capitalist economy. For starters, how does capitalism incentivize work? A big way capitalists incentivize people to do stuff is by imbuing work with innate value. You might have heard this called the Protestant work ethic before. Capitalist cultures have all assimilated the idea that work is good in and of itself. No matter how degrading, punitive, boring, or evil, it's morally good to work and morally bad not to work. Better to be the CEO of a company dumping waste into a local river than to be one of those lazy poor people. At least the executive is out there doing something.
Yeah, oh my god.
This innate belief in the
This is so true, like this kind of mindset. It's like, oh my god, guys, I work at this absolute shit company and shitty, and your mom is like, oh my god, that's fucking great. I'm so proud of you. And if you're like, yeah, I'm sitting at home and I'm kind of trying to work for myself, making my life happy. It's like, the fuck, are you lazy? Go work, you useless piece of shit. Get an apprenticeship. Make sure to suck Elon Musk's small clit.
value of work is what makes the sentence "get a job" so universally recognizable to all of us. But there are a lot of people for whom this kind of cultural pressure doesn't work very well. So the other, more significant way capitalism gets people to work is through material coercion. You are not guaranteed a minimum standard of living under capitalism. So it's either
Wait. Did we just get a fucking make money quick scheme? Well, now watching a socialism video. Are they for real? Oh my god, that's so fun. They're trolling.
you work or you starve. You work or you can't make rent. You work or you're at the mercy of an unfortunate medical surprise. It's a brutal way to organize labor in a society. But the theory is that even though it's bad, at least it'll get our society to be as productive as possible. And overall, that will mean that we will maximize human potential. Millions may be destitute, but hey, we got the lines to touch. Except it doesn't
Wait, what are those lines? Demand, equilibrium, supply, quantity, price.
Capitalism doesn't maximize productivity or human potential, even by its own standards. In the US, there are more people that are unemployed than there are jobs for them to do. While you may have heard that there are more jobs in the economy than people to fill them, especially during the quote, Great Resignation, that's not strictly speaking, what's the word? True? Most news outlets use the government's preferred data on unemployment, a number that is usually pretty low because when that number is low, it looks good. The most commonly used number on unemployment is called the U3, and the reason it shows a relatively low rate of unemployment, one that makes Americans look lazy when
U3 was 6.1%, U6 was 10.4% of April 2021. For reference, I think in Germany it was around 5% during that time. It's also rather funny because in German politics, like if you listen to them, it's often talked about how like there's such a high unemployment rate and we only have about like 5, 6, 7%-ish. And if you compare that to all the other countries in Europe, it's like among the lowest of the low, by far the lowest of the low. Like I gotta fact check that for this year. Maybe I shouldn't do this here. Wait, I'm gonna do it on my other browser. Unemployment rate 2024. Germany. 5.9% we have right now. And then if I Google Europe, the average is 6%. Okay, so we're below average at least. Places online. Oh my god.
there are all those good jobs out there, is because it flat out doesn't include a lot of people that it really should. Excluded from the U3 unemployment rate are people who are underemployed, marginally attached to the workforce, meaning they want to and can work but aren't looking anymore, or that are categorized as discouraged. All people who in one way or another easily fall into the unemployed category, but aren't counted as such.
Why would you not get counted if you discourage to work or underemployed? Wait, this is so stupid. Whatever. Okay, yes, America, you're doing a great job of faking statistics. Who doesn't? Keep it up.
But that's not all. Sometimes the unemployment number will be even lower than that because the government just counts wrong. As a result, when you try to actually count up how many people are really unemployed by adding up those who are miscategorized, unemployed, or underemployed, you get a much bigger number. 26.8 million people. Way more people than there are jobs to fill. What does this mean? Well, it means that millions of people are being hit with a stick and promised a carrot that many of them will mathematically never get the chance to eat. We are subjecting millions of people to crushing poverty, without guaranteed housing, healthcare, or adequate food on the theory that it'll get them to work, despite knowing full well that we don't have the room in our job market to accommodate them all. It's misery.
That's so pog. No idea, but it's actually crazy, right? Like, all these things regarding work and capitalism. It's pretty brutal when you think about it. Like just, suppressing people, miscounting on purpose, maximizing profits, not caring about
for misery's sake. And this is completely
people
contradicting
being
the
hurt.
idea that capitalism can maximize human potential. That's because maximizing human potential doesn't maximize profits. It is more profitable for our companies to overwork some people, according to one study, about 1 in 3 Americans, and have a separate, unemployed pool of people in a desperate living situation, ready to accept just about any job for very low pay.
Well, I think this works easily, right? Because the Americans that are overworked usually happen to also often be the ones that beat down on the people that are unemployed, stuff like that. At least that's the case in Germany. Can't speak for America. But all those people that are underpaid working in supermarket and stuff are blaming the unemployed people getting unemployment money and stuff like that. But these people are not in fault. Guys, these make what, the bare minimum to eat? You guys are angry at the people for getting the bare minimum? You guys are angry about people getting to eat instead of having to starve? Instead of being angry at your employer for not paying you enough? The fuck? Be angry at the right person, homie.
Our governments care more about how profitable an economy is than putting that profit to good use. So this reserve army of labor is perpetually maintained. If governments solved poverty, they would hurt profits, and that's what's most important to them. But that's for the unemployed. Those who escape unemployment aren't making it into some hallowed sanctuary of regalian pleasure. Most Americans don't like their jobs. That may seem subjective, but according to Gallup, 66% of Americans are either not engaged or actively disengaged from their job. We might call that kind of feeling alienation.
Who is surprised?
The way Gallup comes up with these numbers is by getting yes or no responses to basic statements like, "At work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day," or "At work, my opinions seem to count," or "The mission..."
At work, my opinion seems to count. 66% disagree. That's so funny and accurate. Oh my god. You see, it's funny in a sad way, you know? It's so funny. Oh my
or
god.
purpose of my company
Whatever.
makes me feel my job is important. And even basic, bottom-of-the-barrel statements like, "My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person."
My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person, and then most people disagreed. Oh my god. The sad part is that the supervisors or managers aren't even the people that make, the good amount of money, you know? They're just tools for the people that make the big money for the CEOs. So it's so fucking sad that they are, the emotional connection between you and your chef, you and your boss, not chef, you and your boss working together is not there. It's crazy to me. Just have a nice feeling, the monster raving loony party. Okay, so my dad learned plumber and handyman in America and would make a decent living there. He moved here and is now stuck in a low-paying, labor-intensive job that he's overqualified for, but it's the only job that he can get. So where in your opinion lies the issue there? I mean, in my perfect utopia, we would be globally connected, so it wouldn't matter where he learned the job, so that would be the easy answer, but the more fair answer would be to just have some sort of course internationally, so if someone learned something somewhere, they should be allowed to go through a course to regain their qualification in another country. Basically, get a German apprenticeship for those jobs. With a mini course kind of thing. And this course should of course be paid for, because we are looking to get quality workers, professionals, in specific jobs, so it should be supportive. To be fair, it's Austria, not Germany. Yeah, it doesn't matter, really. It's a genuine political party that did surprisingly well in the wait. Oh my god, it's like the beer party in Austria, right? There's a beer party in Austria that has a shit ton of voters. probably like this.
Why are so many people unable to answer these questions in the affirmative? It's because the jobs we're working and the context in which we're working them aren't built with human needs in mind. We aren't working for ourselves or our community. We are working to make someone else wealthier, not to become more fulfilled people, not to improve the lives of the people we love, just to put another buck in someone else's pocket and get enough of a kickback to pay for the things we need and maybe a couple things we want. We are alienated from work, and that means we can only ever see it as a sacrifice of our time. For the thing that takes up most of our waking hours, that's a problem. So what about socialism? As a refresher, socialism is a society where the means of production are owned collectively, and basic needs are guaranteed to all unconditionally. For any theory heads in the crowd, here we're talking specifically about lower-phase communism just to make our case as difficult as possible to defend. Anyway, how do you get people to work if all their basic needs are met? For starters, there's just going to be less work that needs to be done by everyone. Convincing people to spend 4 or 5 hours on a job instead of 8 is already making things easier. With fewer jobs that exist only to drive up profit for capital owners, and by eliminating the artificial work scarcity capitalism produces, we can greatly reduce the amount of time people spend working.
That's like the most important point, right? Like there's so many jobs, so many things in the world that would be useless in such a society. Like just look at those really, really big companies. They have like people called lobbyists that meet with politicians. That's their full-time job. They meet with politicians, tell them about their company, their needs and their demands towards the politics. That's their only job. They're paid a shit ton only to talk with politicians. This is a waste of human resource, for example. Then on top of that, of us overproducing, I would like to mention the glass example I mentioned at Kimmy's stream earlier. So, back in Eastern Germany, and I don't know what it's called in English, Deutsche Demokratische Republik, the DDR, under the Soviet regime, managed to invent glass technology, which made glass which you drink from, basically unbreakable. So, when the Soviet Union died down, this company looked for investors, tried to sell off their patent, but there was no one that wanted to buy it. Well, because guess fucking what? You can't make profit with something that's unbreakable because you're only gonna sell it once. And that's the problem with capitalism.
Incentives a capitalist society follows lead it to overwork one chunk of society while sustaining another group of immiserated people who do not work despite wanting to. In contrast, in a society where everyone has democratic power over economic decisions, the most likely outcome is to divide work equitably, hence less work per person. This reduction in working hours would also be helped by automation, which wouldn't face the same resistance as it does under capitalism.
Exactly, that's one of the main points as well. Like, the only thing when we bring up robots are taking our job is like, oh no, I'm not gonna get paid anymore, I'm gonna be unemployed. Instead of thinking like, fuck, yeah, someone else can do my shitty job that I shouldn't be having to do. Why are we getting depressed about the fact that robots can do our job? Because the simple fact that we're scared that big-ass fuckboy CEOs are not gonna pay us anymore. Well, shut the fuck up. That's a win. Having to work less is something good, guys. It's something positive. Potentially. If you got time off, and you still wanna work, guess what? You can work at home on your hobbies. Capitalism literally made it so robots make art while humans die of overwork. It's so funny because it's true. Which makes it incredibly sad.
Under capitalism, workers are disincentivized from advocating for more automation because it threatens to rob them of their job, which they need to live. Capitalists are also disincentivized from automating jobs away because it's not very difficult to find someone desperate enough to do it for a lower pay. Building robots is expensive. Moving a job outside the imperial core is not. Under socialism, if a decent existence is not conditional on work, having machines take over your job or at least alleviate the time and effort it takes is a no-brainer. With a democratic model of economic decision-making, automation has much more room to develop, since it's in everyone's interest to reduce the amount of work being done. Here again, the appeal of a shorter work day or work week comes back into focus. In general, this logic of lower working hours can be applied to all sorts of jobs in a more targeted way. If a job is particularly unappealing because it's especially physically demanding, for example, the number of hours spent on the job can be reduced in order to make it more appealing. Once again, this kind of logic runs counter to what we experience in capitalist society. Capitalism has, in most parts of the world, drifted towards a standardization of work around the 8-hour day and the 40-hour work.
Wait, pause. What browser do I use? For stream, I'm using Firefox. How you doing? Welcome back, Rainy.
That is because the driving force of work under capitalism is always maximizing the exploitation of human capacity, up to the point where the law steps in. What this means is that jobs that have no business being 8 hours long are 8 hours long just because they legally can be.
Yep, that's a very good point. Obviously, working in a supermarket, stuff like that should be this long. Where the fuck is your apple? I love how you're a little bit mean with that comment, so you just added like cute emotes to sound less mean. Don't rub it in, she's the only person where it doesn't work. I don't know, I have ad blocker, I still have ads. These are stupid. Stop analyzing me perfectly. Sorry, I'm too intelligent to not do that. I'm uncomfortable. Shit, then why did he use the comfy emote, huh? Okay, no, but about this point is like, we're maxing out like times. If you work in a fucking factory or something, they're literally having shifts that the factory is running 24/7, right? But it's not the point that's going on here. There's lots of jobs where basically 24/7 care is kind of important, like hospital, or taking care of old people, or police, firefighters, stuff like that. She was scared about not knowing what to say in reaction content. She's doing so fucking good. I'm not. Shut up.
Less time working is already great, but there are even better ways in which work under socialism gets incentivized. One of the big reasons your job can suck is because of who your boss is. Usually, they aren't accountable to you. There's a strict hierarchy, and odds are you're near the bottom. If you have a bad boss, there's very little you can do about it. And there's a lot they can do to make your time on the job a lot worse. As a result of the common ownership of the means of production, this kind of thing would not be a feature of socialism. Either your company's hierarchy is completely dissolved, or if some amount of hierarchy is necessary to make things run smoothly, your management would be elected by the entire body of workers like you see in some co-ops today. So you...
The most important point, that's for me, that seemed kind of missing so far, maybe it's still coming, but if you have a company and your higher-ups are not solely and purely focused on maximizing profits. So if you're calling in sick or you're saying you don't feel too well, they don't have to think like, okay, minus $1 million. Goodbye, fuck off, just quit already, we need you. But they actually care about you being a good worker and you liking to work there and your emotions, then they would be able to like actually help you out. There would be incentive to make sure that you are as best as you could possibly be. Healthy, stuff like that. Because guess what? A person that is healthy, feeling well, not getting yelled at, and not being forced to maximize and overload yourself is gonna be working more effective.
You either no longer have a boss, or your boss is accountable to you, not the other way around. A better work environment, where your voice counts just as much as anybody's, is a lot more pleasant than one where you are told what to do, and you can only resist by threatening to leave the job entirely. An ultimatum that more often than not is not worth making. Overall, a less alienating job that takes up a lot less of your time and treats you like a human being with agency and not like an interchangeable cog will inevitably entice people into working in ways that current capitalist labor doesn't. After all, everything we do is work. If we can make the unpleasant things we do pleasant, we will do them because that's how we treat everything else. That's why we cook for ourselves, make our beds, and clean the counters. It's why 1 in 4 Americans volunteers. We make necessary things pleasant. Doing work with a clear result that has a demonstrable impact, where you can see progress, and where you work with other people makes people happy.
I don't make my bed, but making your bed is stupid. There's no benefit from this. Like, sure, you should wash your bed regularly, but there's no benefit from making your bed. Fuck that shit. Disagree? Well, you're wrong. I love making my bed. Wait, am I wrong? Am I the problem? Oh, it gives us such a... Oh, I guess I'm the problem. I make my bed because I didn't want my cat to sit where I put my head in. Oh my god, okay, fine. You know what? The good thing is, everyone can handle their own bedroom however they want, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's about small steps of accomplishment. That's true. It's like, if you do small steps every day for something that you care about that seems to brighten your mood, it's gonna help you get through the day better. So cool.
Work that takes this into account, not just the bottom line, is work that is attractive. We can do that for the whole economy once we stop prioritizing profits. But admittedly, all this might not be enough. All these factors may not be sufficient incentives to produce for all our collective needs and wants. If that's the case, we might choose to add an extra incentive by rewarding some jobs better than others. Even if all your basic needs are met, you might still benefit from doing a job very few people want to do themselves. This would never lead to the staggering inequality we face today. After all, no one makes billions of dollars off a higher wage, but it would still produce some benefits for those who are willing to sacrifice more. In this lower phase of communism, the guiding principle would be, from each according to their ability, to each according to their contribution, as opposed to the more...
Yes, that's the most important point in a socialist society. From each according to their ability, each according to their contribution. Meaning that, well, people that basically cannot work under no circumstances shouldn't be forced to work. People that can work really hard, can do their best as much as they can, as much as they want, as much as it fulfills them. This way, without maximizing profits, we would be able to feed the entire population of the earth. We would be able to have everyone in a nice house. We would be able to have everyone do alright without any, like, the only drawbacks being billionaires can't be billionaires. Well, boo-hoo, loser. Shut the fuck up. No one cares about... Your children usually hate you, billionaires. Ever thought about that? Can't even do that well, huh?
Classic, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need, which we would expect from a later stage communism. It's not an ideal scenario, but again, we're not even sure it's necessary. While you'll often hear things like, why would a doctor take on such a grueling job if they only made as much as a janitor? That's not as rock solid of an argument as some...
This is so bullshit. Why would anyone be a doctor if you would only make as much as a janitor? That's the person this guy just said. So many people are super interested in being doctors. Being a doctor is super interesting. So this is what I said the last time. The jobs that are less desired, like being a janitor, should be paid more in that sense. This is so stupid. Being a doctor is so fulfilling. Exactly. Like this person obviously didn't state that, but you guys get what I mean.
In a lower stage socialist country like Cuba, where doctors don't make especially high wages, but the health sector has been properly funded, there's an abundance of doctors. So much so that the country deploys physicians to its neighboring, oftentimes wealthier capitalist
Cuba is such a good example, actually, because Cuba was doing really great.
countries when they're in need. Reality does not support the idea that because a task is unpleasant or difficult, people are not drawn to it. People like doing things that matter in conditions that fulfill their needs and desires. Not only that, people
You didn't know that Cuba was socialist? Wait, let me Google. Is Cuba fully socialist or is it a communist? Because I'm actually not sure. Oh, right. Oh my god, that's Wikipedia is so rigged. Yeah, it's a one-party system. It's a socialist country. No, so the thing is, the problem about Cuba is that America, the USA is, doing a trade embargo on them, has been over several years. So they struggle really hard. But yeah.
don't like not doing things. If you're still wondering why people would work despite having all their basic needs met, think about what it's actually like not to work. Within just a few days, doing nothing is unbearable. We are hardwired to want to do.
Exactly. No one is gonna end, or like barely anyone is gonna end up doing absolutely nothing. Most people, like, it's within the human body to want to work. Of course, you will aim to do more fulfilling things rather than, like 10 hours in a factory or stuff like that. These kind of things, but in general, it's super important to note that everyone will eventually work as long as they are able to.
Sitting passively in front of a screen all day is more punishing than it is relaxing. And with an abundance of things to do around you that benefit you directly and your community as a whole, staying inside all day is almost certainly going to be the worst option of the two. But I briefly touched on the idea of limitations earlier, so it's probably good that I actually address it before the video ends.
I actually love being handy and stuff. I love building things a lot and modifying my furniture a lot. It's labor intensive, so it's not that I'm lazy at all. Yeah, exactly, like that's something, right? And the thing, like, we would reduce workload by a lot by just having things that are less likely to break, like furniture, stuff like that. I mean, I mentioned it earlier with the glass, but if we have furniture that doesn't break at all, or like very rarely, that also means we need to rebuy it less often. Generally, building stuff better would mean we would need less handymans to help us out. Stuff like that.
Socialism would not be a perfect society. For example, would there still be coercion? The honest answer is maybe. So long as there is scarcity, there will almost always need to be a way to resolve disputes over how scarce resources are divided up. Scarce resources can be physical, material things, but also more abstract ideas like leisure time. Under capitalism, the decisions over how to distribute these scarce resources are made by capital owners and markets, by the competition of all against all, with the consequences of vast inequality and mass poverty we see today. Under socialism, these disputes would either be resolved through democratic means, within a company, community, or throughout society at large in some form of national assembly, or self-imposed, with the recognition that there is a want that is not being met, and with individuals taking it upon themselves to satisfy it. It's not clear how much of a role scarcity would play under socialism, given how much of the scarcity we experience today is artificial or exacerbated in order to drive up profits. But even if we imagine scarcity to be just as important a feature as it is in our current lives, there's no doubt that the socialist model is more legitimate in settling the disputes scarcity would produce. Okay, but can this system
show me
work
all that
perfectly?
food that's been
Here
thrown
again,
away.
the honest answer is
so
probably
sad.
not. But it doesn't need to. It just needs to work better than what we have now. And better than brutal poverty,
Everything's
massive
works
unwanted
better than what
unemployment,
we have
and
now.
a general dissatisfaction with how we spend the bulk of our days isn't that hard to do. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of content is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. As you can probably imagine, YouTube doesn't like to promote left-wing political content.
Thank you, Sir Second Thought, for the nice video. I might give you a thumbs up if I could. If I was logged in, you would be getting a thumbs up now. That was a nice video. I liked it. Do we have something else to watch?